Welcome to RotoWire Fantasy Football Live. As always, we come at you 5 days a week. We take off Wednesdays and Thursdays during the regular season, and you won't want to miss the Sunday start, sit, show. Can't say that too fast. The word comes out wrong. I'll give you the why and the detailed answers. You can make your best lineup decision. I won't just tell you, oh, start A, start B. We'll go over the why again. Got to arm you. You're a smart fantasy player. You definitely just want a little extra intel on your side to flip probability in your favor. No, we don't get them all right. Of course not. It's a game of probability, but we try to make that probability a little closer for you. Again, that edge is all what it is about. If you, Sauger, welcome. Glad you're in the house. And as we break down last night's game, we'll start out with Eagles Vikings. Weird game, right? Eagles do win this one. They come up with the win late, and the Vikings, they choose to drop coverage and give Philadelphia. They give them the underneath area to work. But here's the thing: Philadelphia last year, Shane Steichen was the offensive coordinator last year. He would have seen immediately what the defense was doing. He would have taken it. When defenses tried to take the pass, they ran. Vice versa. Well, maybe that's the issue with Brian Johnson. Maybe it's not rust. Maybe it's like he is not understanding to make these adjustments on the fly like Shane Steichen could. Steichen always had a plan, but Steichen understood the flow of the game. Now, maybe Brian Johnson picks that up. There's no guarantee the offense is seamless, but the adjustments took forever. They eventually figured it out. Don't know what happened to cause that. But and I think I screwed up on the last year's offensive coordinator's name, but it should be okay. But Brian Johnson, that's the problem right now. I think the adjustment took forever. Now, Jalen Hurts in 2 weeks, he's averaging 181 pass yards and a touchdown. He's also just averaged 36 rush yards, which is fine, not great, and he's rushed for an average of a touchdown a game. These aren't the elite numbers we were hoping for when some people were making him the top quarterback off the board, definitely top 3 in most drafts. I said always any order of Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts was the way that people were approaching those. But right now, fantasy managers are not really excited. Now, we'll get to this in a bit, but the good news is there's a mini bye. So Thursday night game, they have a week and a half till they play the Buccaneers next. And Buccaneers, again, are very attackable defense. They'll bring pressure, but the Eagles line should be able to hold up. But if there are going to be adjustments to be made, it's hopeful that those adjustments are made now. That's what we have to hope for. So we'll see what happens with that. But nonetheless, it's a concern right now. Now, Kenny Gainwell was out with a rib injury, and it looks like they were going to lean into Boston Scott a little bit. He had 5 carries. He gets dinged up. Well, they finally have to go to DeAndre Swift. And it was really, he piled it up in the second half. But he got going in the first half a bit too. But again, the adjustment was slow. But man, you could just see the middle of the field. Once you got to the edge, there was so much room to run. Now, DeAndre Swift puts up big numbers when he's had opportunities throughout his career, but this really, really worked out well for him. He goes for $175 and a touchdown on the ground. Now, oddly enough, he catches 3 passes, all 3 targets, only goes for 6 yards. So this is a player who was always dynamic after the catch. Now, play design had a lot to do with that, but it was really good to see him getting going on the ground. Now, as to what will happen when Gainwell comes back, good question. Is the genie out of the bottle with Swift? Was the long-term plan to keep him healthy and safe for the playoffs? 28 carries for a player with a long injury history. You certainly don't want to keep that type of workload up unless you think for some reason the injuries were happen chance, but Swift's injuries go back to college. So I do have to think when Gainwell's there, Gainwell's still going to retain a role because, again, I think the Eagles have a long-term vision. But if they're looking at their first 2 games and saying, well, maybe it's not a foregone conclusion that we're the best team, argue Cowboys, 49ers. But, maybe the thing is they're not sure, so that's a problem. Uncle Ted's in the house. Welcome back. Now, Rashad Penny, we called this one a little bit. We were concerned. If he was inactive in week 1, we figured he'd be active. But Brian Pope, welcome aboard. Yeah, the G. Oh my God, G. I know. It was tough. A lot of people did have Swift on their bench, but the good news is you won't have him on the bench next time. Hopefully, he gets more work, continue to see work. So Rashad Penny, like we kind of figured, unfortunately, a non-factor. There's got to be something behind the scenes here. We know talent's not an issue. We know that when he's been on the field in his career, he's been one of the more dynamic backs in the league. But there has to be something about their system. He's not picking the system up properly because you didn't lose his talent. That just didn't happen. He didn't get move away from Seattle and all of a sudden, well, I can't play anymore. That wasn't the case. And with 3 carries for 9 yards, there wasn't enough carries to see what was going on. Boston Scott was ahead of him, had 5 carries, like I said, got dinged up. So right now, very, very little confidence in Rashad Penny. Don't know if that's going to change over time. But remember, it's not like teams are working on things during practice during the week to get players, up to speed. Usually it's a game plan. You're installing game plans. And so unless Penny figures something out on his own, this is very, very problematic. So that's going to be an issue because they don't trust him very clearly. When you put Boston Scott ahead of him, it's a problem. Now, defensively, the Eagles have issues. We talked about this extensively on different shows. The spine of their defense, that was the problem last year. There's a lot of turnover on that spine. We talked about that as well. Complete overhaul in the safety. I know Reed Blankenship was with them last year, and he did get starts, but he was behind Marcus Epps. He started. They have a rookie they're blending in. They have turnover there. Nakobe Dean was going to be their linebacker this year. It was like he was on the team last year, but he was transitioning. He was injured and missed this game. The defensive line, we love all the pieces, but again, it's a transitionary point. And we remember last year they had to bring in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh to stop the run. And there's no guarantee that this group is going to be able to have. Now they were fine against Garrett Bradbury-less, center from the Vikings, and Christian Darrisaw got dinged up. So, and it's not like Minnesota's gonna be able to run the ball anyway. But so it's the same issue the Eagles had last year, but the Eagles were able to overcome that because they were so good offensively. But remember, you could attack the Eagles in the middle of the field last year. That was the blueprint. That was the game plan. Not everybody had success, but if you had, a good offense, you could have success there. And we saw last night. Not all the plays were in the middle of the field, but I won't call it a busted coverage on the long touchdown to Jordan Addison, but it was a compromised coverage, and there was supposed to be help there. But again, maybe they were rolling the Justin Jefferson, but it looked like miscommunication to me. It looked like somebody didn't pass off, the other player properly. And so at that point, Charlene's in the house. Welcome back. Happy Friday. And Sauger, yeah, Cousins, I know. Oh my gosh. We'll talk about him in a minute. We'll get to that for sure. So again, you could attack the spine of that defense. It's going to happen. Now, they may gel over time, as Jalen Carter gets, acclimated to the NFL, and, maybe Jordan Davis in the second year begins to, just gel a bit better. And maybe when Nakobe Dean comes back, maybe he ends up, acclimating into that role. Maybe the safety's figured out. But again, it's a concern right now. And defenses will continue to attack that. Now, James Bradbury was out, which certainly didn't help because they had to rotate. And Devontae Maddox got a serious injury. He was their slot corner and went out. It's a bad start. And it's possible Maddox's injury is serious. We'll find out about that. It looked serious to me. I'm not a doctor, so it won't go that way yet. But we're very concerned about that, Now, of course, the Eagles are winning games, so that's a good thing. They beat the Patriots, so that worked out, and they got by in this one. So that helps them. But they're going to have to figure a lot of things. There's a lot of drawing board stuff here right now, but there's film out on them now. There's film out on what you can do, and teams are going to make these attacks. Charlene put in Jefferson and Addison, 41 points. That's a great game. A very awesome start to your fantasy week. All right. So now we already said I think we pretty much went through everybody. Quez Watkins got hurt in this one. Olamide Zaccheaus ends up with 45% of the snaps. But the thing is, the third receiver role is not getting targets. I didn't talk about Dallas Goedert either yet. Well, basically in 2 weeks, Quez Watkins had 2 targets last week. He played like 80% of the snaps. And other than that, there haven't been any other targets between Watkins and Zaccheaus. So that's not going to be a profitable role. There could be a week where there's a long touchdown for sure, no doubt, but I wouldn't bank on it. Dallas Goedert, at least he had targets. It wasn't what we wanted, 6 catches for 22. But if you're in a PPR and you got 8 points, you're not what you wanted, but you're not going to say, all right, at tight end, if you get 8 points, live to fight another day, you're fine. After he goose-egged in week 1, I guess I have to say going from 1 to 7 targets, there was a positive there. They'll get him figured out. Not worried about that. All right, Viking side of the football. Through 2 games, Kirk Cousins is averaging 44 pass attempts, 354 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's a start to a season. He played Tampa last week, and obviously, like we saw about the Eagles, injuries, compromised defense, doesn't matter. Cousins produced. and the primetime curse, right? The primetime curse. I think he did well to overcome that in this one. Those that buy that thing, we talked about it. It's something that has been out there. He's laid a lot of goose eggs in primetime, but he did not lay a goose egg last night. They lost. It doesn't matter. If for fantasy, you're great. And Charlene says no Thursday night curse for her. No, 100% on that one. All right. Now, as we move on, let's talk about the Vikings side of the ball here. Continuing. So we talk about Cousins. Justin Jefferson. Consistent. 12 to 13 targets in each game, at least 150 yards in each game. Yeah, I guess he was the wide receiver one. Now, Tyreek Hill certainly was making his case to fight for that. And Jefferson had that unfortunate fumble at the goal line. He wouldn't, if he holds on to the ball in a certain way, he could have put it over the pylon maybe and scored. But, we're not going to quibble about that. Justin Jefferson is obviously insane, and good luck stopping him. And you're happy you spent the 101. We don't talk more about Justin Jefferson. It is what it is. Now, KJ Osborne, full-time player, 2 weeks in a row now. KJ Osborne has a snap share of 91% in week 1, 97% this week, 6 targets in each game. He did have a touchdown. He has yardage is low, 31 and 34. As a flex with that snap percentage. See, KJ Osborne blocks, and it's an important part of their offense. And they utilize that in the running game, the downfield game as routes are developing. He's a very functional part of their offense. The team likes him. He's going to play. Now, Jordan Addison, it was very good to see a snap share go from 56 to 69%. Now, he's had only 6 and 5 targets in 2 games, but fortunately for Jordan Addison, he's had either an exploited or broken coverage for a long touchdown in each game. That's worked out well for him. And it certainly, as he's learning the game and growing, having those favorable plays are definitely important, because if he continues to grow on his own, he may not need those fortunate plays to come through. He may be doing that on talent. There's always a bit of a learning curve for some of the players, and there might be there as well. But that said, the production's been there, so it's been a very nice start to the season. And in terms of Addison, so it was 3 catches for 72 and a touchdown. Last week it was 4 for 61. Again, each of them aided by a long touchdown. But hey, it counts. We roll with it. And teams, this is part of the byproduct, though. When you're selling out to stop Justin Jefferson, something's got to give. And teams are trying to throw everything they can to see what'll stick. And so it's going to be problematic for defenses. But Jordan Addison wheels up right now. The targets are low, but the production is high, and no reason to go away from him. We talk about this over and over. We knew Minnesota would give up a lot of points this year as a bad defense. We knew Cousins would have to throw a lot. And this is a very fortunate happening for the passing. Now, TJ Hockenson, too, 8 and 9 targets. That's a carryover from last year. He had many games with that many targets after midseason. I don't remember what week he got acquired last year, but it's been very common for TJ Hockenson. And, only 8 for 35 in week 1. But 7 for 66 and 2 tutties last night were definitely what we wanted to see there. And again, Hockenson was the player, middle of the field. That's where the weakness is, and not good. And Uncle Ted, you're right, A.J. Brown, it's rough because they tried to get him a touchdown. He had one, then he got called back for a penalty. They went back to him on the next play, and I knew they'd go to him on the next play. They did that in, I want to say Pittsburgh last year. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was a game. He had a touchdown. It got called back the very next play. They went right back to him, and he got a touchdown. And they totally went back to him, and they just missed. They just missed in that connection. But A.J. Brown is going to be fine. Again, I think this is all the problem of Brian Johnson, and I hope he figures things out, the offensive coordinator, because right now they are not attacking efficiently, and the mini bye should give them time to study some things. And A.J. Brown's a legitimate superstar. They're going to get the ball in his hand, and A.J. Brown was complaining. You can see on the side, he's complaining. He's not getting the ball. And superstars, when they complain, they get it. They eventually will get theirs. And they tried to feed him later in that game. And it was a weird game script. It was like the game was close on the scoreboard, but the Eagles played like it was never in question. And so there was that. And again, and I know other defenses might do what Minnesota did and just completely sell out of the pass. I don't think, though, it's likely. Minnesota was so compromised defensively in the secondary that they just had to add bodies. I think other teams realize that if you just play pass, the Eagles will run on you. And they'll eat you alive that way with that offensive line. So I think what we saw yesterday was a look we're not going to frequently see. So AJ Brown is going to be fine. 2 weeks, and when we look at the numbers, let me go back to see my chart. 7 for 79 in week one. If you're going to tell me you got 14.9 PPR points, we can live with it. Now the 4 for 29 we don't like, but remember, if either one of those, that the penalty doesn't happen or that touchdown where it's just a couple feet past them or a couple inches past them, we're looking at 2 14-point games. And so not what you want, but certainly acceptable, and not Justin Jefferson level, of course. But Devontae Adams didn't have a world record beater game in game one either. So we're all right on this. I think we're okay. And then Tyler Jefferson, the wide receiver 3 in his own team, or is it because of Slay? I don't understand, Tyler. If you were to rephrase the question, I can answer it. But I know Jefferson has 12 and 13 targets in the first two. So, and Sauger, Devontae Smith, yep, in only 5 targets, Devontae Smith did cash. Little extra attention AJ Brown's way, yep, and then obviously Devontae Smith kind of lost the defense, which is kind of cool. The running game, Alexander Madison, not good. 2 games, 19 carries, 62 yards. Now Garrett Bradbury is hurt. Missed yesterday, was dinged up during the week 1 game. Christian Darrisaw was injured in week 1, and he didn't make it through week 2 either. That's certainly not helping, but we were concerned about Madison. We talked about him. He'll have a role. He's the lead guy. Nobody's challenging him. Ty Chandler with his 4 carries for 0 yards isn't challenging him. So Madison's going to get volume. It's not going to be extreme volume because this is going to be a pass team with some running. And then as a receiver, here's the thing. Madison has only caught 6 of 10 targets for 21 yards, 3.5 yards per catch. Now, he did score that touchdown last week on the reception, but overall, if you have to start him as a low-end running back 2 on volume, I get it. Flex is best, but he's just not good. His first 2 years in the league, he looked good, and then the last 2 years, not so good. And he looked at that same player he was the last 2 years. He has no juice. So not so good there. Of course, Uncle Ted, very right. Yeah, just an afterthought last night. It happens, right? Yeah, we get games like that, right? Unfortunate, but yeah, AJ Brown will be fine. You're right, Uncle Ted. And when we look at, let me see what else I want to do here. So yeah, Ty Chandler, like I said, but now Chandler as a receiver, it's only 3 targets, but his 3 for 27 looks a lot better than Madison's 6 for 21. Now, small sample size. Sometimes there's a situation where he's catching the ball and it's, where the defense isn't looking for anything. So don't put much into the numbers, but it's possible that Chandler could start to carve into a little bit of a receiving role if they decide to move in that direction, because they're just getting nothing from Madison in terms of explosiveness, and Chandler's 4 for 0. That's not looking good. So, but if they want to rotate backs, they may be better off putting him that way. So Tyler, is Jefferson wide receiver 3 on his own team? Both of the receivers out targeting him? No. Jefferson had 12 and 13 targets. The targets were here. Jefferson had 13 last night. Addison had 5. Osborne had 6. And Hockenson had 8. And then in week 1, it was 12 to Jefferson, 6 to Addison, 6 to Osborne. So Jefferson had as many targets in week 1 as Addison and Osborne combined. Now, TJ Hawkinson's close second, 9 and 8 targets because the middle of the field. But no, Jefferson is in 150 yards each game. So yeah, he's the wide receiver 1. We're good there. All right. Remember, if you're liking the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button if you're on RotoWire YouTube. Also, if you could give me a follow at Jim Coventry NFL on the X or Twitter, I'll do actionable player threads every week. Consider hitting, again, following me there. I can share those with you. I'll be putting threads up this weekend, get you ready for the games, the props, the DFS, whatever you need. We'll get you set up there. All right, let's go to some players now. I'm going to talk about players from week 1 that we need to pay attention to in week 2 based on their week 1 performance. Now, ADP says a lot of people, not as high as last year, but we're confident enough with Michael Pittman. But the ADP showed there was some skepticism too. And look, a lot of us were nervous about Anthony Richardson. We know he was less than 50% completions in one of those preseason games, and we were nervous. He throws a lot of his passes at the same speed. Now, Michael Pittman does go 8 for 97 and a touchdown on 11 targets. Surprisingly, his first catch came in the second half. That was weird. So he put up 97 yards and a half of football. So that's a positive thing. And the touchdown he had was a screen pass. 2 blockers just did an amazing job of setting that up as a well-designed play. But that said, Anthony Richardson, this was the surprise to me. Their tight end, because they had 4 to 5 tight ends on the roster. They only have 4 receivers on their roster. If nothing is going to tell you we're going to be heavy personnel, it's that they weren't. They played almost exclusively 3 receiver sets. That was a huge surprise. Josh Downs, because of that, was a factor, but Michael Pittman. Again, they're going to throw the ball. They had Richardson in shotgun. They weren't going under center heavy RPO. Their roster construction completely went against what they did. And I don't think it's a one-game thing. I don't think you'd put the rookie out in game 1 and say, okay, we are going to do something we're not going to do all season. I don't see that. I think they're going to develop now based on that. We change. We're pliable. We have to say, you know what? They're following it differently. This is the way they're going to do it. And so it's going to be probably a shotgun world. There's going to be more pass attempts than we expected for Richardson. I still call him a floor play for fantasy because he's going to get the rushing yards. He's going to get that. But I don't know how many big passing games there are going to be. And let me explain this too. I have to expect that Jacksonville had no idea they were going to see 11 personnel, 3 receiver sets. They had to be completely blindsided by that. And so just understand that as well. That was probably not something they ever thought was going to happen. Zay Flowers. So the Zay Flowers game was interesting. In college, he lived heavily off of screen passes. And we wondered coming into the NFL, that was kind of the one concern. Might not be a big guy against contact, but he made a living off of screens. Well, that's Baltimore got him on screens. And not everybody. He had one downfield pass, a nice double move to the outside. That was real nice. But, the thing is with Zay Flowers, they did mostly screens to him, and it worked. Now, here's the thing. Defenses now see this is what they're doing. Zay Flowers may be fine. There may be no issues at all. But they made him the focal point of the passing attack. He was easily the leader. Now, Mark Andrews wasn't there. All right, understood. But he got 10 targets. And it was a lot of very, very specific pass types. And so, but the defense is now, that will be, okay, Zay Flowers, we have to press him at the line. Even though he'll get a free release, he'll get somebody to try to still jam it. If he can't evade that, and he might be just fine. But just understand, again, it's another player that probably caught the defense off guard. He's a very talented player, obviously a first-round NFL pick, and he may be a phenomenal NFL player. It's something to watch. And then Uncle Ted, Donald Parham, it's always interesting with him because he is a great red zone target, but he always gets hurt. I mean, they always gets hurt. And so that's the one knock on him. But yes, he is somebody who is going to be a red zone option when he's on the field. Definitely a player to watch. Definitely love him. And then Charlene, so manager dropped Akers. You know what, Charlene? I'm actually going to talk about this now. So here's the thing. I watched the games all on Game Mix, but then I rewatched the film during the week. And what I noticed was, so whenever Akers was on the field, Seattle went into like heavy run defense. They were sliding people up into the box closer to the line. And Akers had a number of decent runs, but there were plays where he would just hit when he had the ball hand him, he literally got hit, like loss of 4, loss of 3. So he had some of those, and they were just keyed up on stopping him. Akers, when he would have any room, looked fine. The thing was, when Kyren Williams came on the field, all of a sudden they were assuming he was the third down back, and you could see the defense would creep back. Williams' 12-yard run comes against dime personnel. They had 6 defensive backs on the field. So the defense was thinking the Rams were dictating their attention by personnel. And therefore, Akers has a rotten game, gets carries late to grind the clock out for whatever that was worth. But Kyren Williams ends up playing way more snaps. So often when Akers would get stuffed on first down, it would immediately be a second. It'd be like second down to be passed out. Right away, we get Kyren Williams in the game. So Williams had more snaps because of the first down success rate was so poor. But Akers, this week they're playing the 49ers. He's not going to get much room against his line. But pick Akers up if he's on waivers, because I'm telling you, the way the game was set, it was really the way the game flow went. And Bobby Wagner against the run was a beast. Now I segue. Bobby Wagner, important point. So Puka Nacua has the great game. God bless him. 119 yards, first game, 15 targets, and can't take it away from him. The young man played a phenomenal game. Now, he had a downfield pass. He couldn't haul in. It was right to him. He misplayed a ball on the sideline. How did he get his 10 catches for $119? The tape showed me exactly what happened. Well, Sean McVay realized with the Seahawks defense, he could get Nacua on linebacker Bobby Wagner. I want to say 6 of Nakua's catches were getting him isolated. Now, Wagner could stop the run like nobody's business, Bobby Wagner can't run anymore in terms of coverage. He cannot cover at all. So basically, they got Nacua isolated on him, and it just kept going back to him. So a lot of Nacua's production came on a mismatch. Now this week, Nacua apparently has some kind of an abdominal injury, and he's questionable. Don't know what that deals with me. But this week, if they decide to attack number 54 like they did last week, well, 54 this week is Fred Warner. I don't think Puka Nacua is going to be able to outrun Fred Warner. And believe me, Fred Warner is probably faster than Puka Nacua. But that's interesting. But I just want to point out, Nacua may keep the production up. If you love him, keep loving him. No, hey, enjoy it. It may last. But understand, most of his production came on a linebacker, Bobby Wagner, who can't cover. And I look, and I don't mean to be rude when I say this. There's a possibility Seattle didn't even know who the heck Puka Nacua was. A 5th-round rookie, yeah, whatever. We're game planning for this 5th-round rookie. My guess is they didn't even think of it as somebody, oh, wait, we got to stop him. They looked to slow down Van Jefferson, which is easy to do, and they did. They looked to take out Cam Akers, and they did. They looked to slow down Tyler Higbee, and they did. They clearly game planned for those 3, but they didn't game plan for Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua, and they paid for it. All right, let's see what we got. We got Adam Thompson coming up at the bottom of the hour. Real excited. We'll go through a few more players here. Nico Collins, very exciting game. Also with Robert Woods, they both had 10+ targets in the opener. And CJ Stroud, when we talked about him, we thought he was that rookie quarterback. He's not looking to the middle of the field. He's looking to throw to the perimeter. He is that classic quarterback. And, he's growing, he's learning. He's not great. We get that. But, when we look at that game, he was throwing. And now some of the passes were in the middle of the field because that's today's NFL. You don't just line up on the outside and stay there. You motion in the slot, you move some in breakers. So a lot of Collins and Woods production did come in the middle of the field, but they were from outside receivers. And I think that's where we're going to see that Stroud is going to be glad to do that. And that was with a decimated offensive line. They were playing Baltimore. So it was very, very exciting to see Nico Collins go 6 for 80 in his first game. And, the defense is feisty, and, we love the coaching hire, but Collins is going to get his, and Woods is going to get targets too. I think that's really exciting. So Isaiah has a question about Aaron Jones or James Cook. Right now, Jones looks like he's injured, and we got to see practice report. But right now, I'd say James Cook. Aaron Jones, that he missed 2 days of practice. It looks like dim for him. All right, so Nico Collins, I'm excited about him. And let me just Drake London. Oh, what do we do, right? Drake London, 90% of the snaps, 1 target, 0 catches, and yes, he's going to have targets in some games. He's not going to get 17 targets in the season, but we know now it was a game that was close into the 3rd quarter, and then Atlanta pulls away late and wins by 14. But when games are close and they're leading, it's very obvious that they're hiding their quarterback, Desmond Ridder. They have no inclination to have him lean on, the passing attack as a function of the offense. They're going to run until they don't have to run. And so that is going to be a very big concern for Drake London. Yeah, he's going to have some games. This week they're playing Green Bay. Don't like the matchup. Green Bay, we thought Joe Barry looked better as a coach last week. Now they played the Bears. That makes a lot of people look better. But, they looked like they're playing more aggressive. And to me, that was all they needed to do. It was a real passive defense last year. When you play passive, it doesn't matter how good your talent is. You're giving up free catches. They were more aggressive. And so, Jair Alexander probably sees a lot of Trey Lance. They're not going to be on him the whole game. He probably stays on the same side, but nonetheless, it'll be probably half the time. And they're not going to, Desmond Ritter's probably not making that throw. DJ Moore, I'm still optimistic. I mentioned the Packers. The Packers, they played more aggressively, and I don't think the Bears are ready for that. They play the team twice a year. I think they were having an expectation of what to see on the defense. I think they were completely blindsided by it. Bears are not a good offense. I get it. But DJ Moore is going to get targets. He's not going to get he has 2 targets early. And then the game kind of went off the rails pretty quickly. It was a weird game. It was a very weird game that I watched. And DJ Moore's going to get in the middle of the field more. And Uncle Ted is definitely talking up. I know you love Roshan. That's an awesome thing. He had a great opening week for you. Hopefully he keeps it up for you, Uncle Ted. And then Charlene, Kelvin Austin, Sean Tucker, and oh, that's smart. That's a good waiver haul there. Very nice waiver haul. All right. So Drake London. And I'm still waiting for Adam Thompson. We'll bounce over to him and do some betting as soon as he comes in here. But did I not send him the link? Maybe let me just see what I got here. Just make sure I have that for him. And I'm just gonna blab here for a minute and make sure Adam has the link to go in. Let me just get him in Slack real quick. But yeah, we're talking about some of these players. Let me get Adam a link here. Send Adam a link. And Adam's coming in right now. Good. Perfect. I sent him the link. He'll be here in a second. I do want to point out Garrett Wilson right now. Hold Garrett Wilson. And the reason I'm saying hold him, if the Jets bring in another quarterback, he'll be fine. I'm very, 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 very scared of Zach Wilson. Now, remember, Garrett Wilson at 1,100 yards, a terrible quarterback play. So there's that. And they're going to get him the ball. There's definitely going to be that. So, but we have to look at this from the perspective that Garrett Wilson will be involved. There probably will be a new quarterback. Adam Thompson, welcome to the house. Every Friday, Adam Thompson, bookies.com is going to be joining us. You know, Adam, he's the ATM, the style over substance odds maker and handicapper. As I said, bookies.com. Now, he used to be CBS Sportsline a while back, but we are glad he's on our team. Adam Thompson, what's going on?
Jim, what's happening, man? How are we looking for week 2? How are we sounding?
Yeah, I think great. And I love the bets that you have coming up. I am so excited. We're going to dive right in there. But man, first of all, how was your week 1? Tell us how your week 1 went.
Good. Went 4-2 on my best bets. Went I think 7-2 on my primetime picks. Thursday, Sunday, Monday. So let's keep it rolling. Let's keep going with week 2. We're doing a thing where we start with $1,000 and we post on Twitter on the socials. I tell you exactly who to bet and how much to bet. And we're kind of keeping it modest, nothing over $60 per game, usually between 25 and 60. We're just rolling with it. So we won about $75 in week 1. And that's the goal, is just to win about $60, $80, $100 each week and keep it rolling until we double our dough.
Last thing I'll say is Adam is a documented winner. He is not one of these guys that's out there and just throwing crap out there. And no, he's a documented winner over many, many, many years. So if you're gambling, you need to be following. You'll find him at Bookies Adam, correct? That's the correct handle, right? Yeah, you find him there. At the end, Adam will remind you of things, but bookies.com is the hub where you'll find a lot of his work. But you definitely, if you're betting, don't make the mistake of not going with Adam Thompson. He'll help you get to the finish line and make some cash. All right, we got some big slate of games here, Adam. Sir, we had that playoff rematch. Patrick Mahomes had his ankle mangled up, I believe, the second quarter in the playoffs. He's healthy this time. We don't know if Kelsey's playing. Chris Jones is back. Jaguars have some offensive line issues. Brandon Sheriff got hurt. Their center, I can't think of his name right now, but he got hurt as well. How are you handicapping Chiefs Jaguars this weekend?
Well, the Chiefs really couldn't look a lot worse than they did in week 1. Obviously, Kelsey was not there. That can't be understated. He needs to play this week. That can't be overstated, especially if you're laying 3 or 3.5 points on the road. Road teams actually did very well in week 1. They went 12-4 against the spread. So, you know, as home field advantage continues to diminish around the NFL, I like a lot of road favorites this week, and the Chiefs are definitely one of those teams, as long as Kelsey is playing. You mentioned Chris Jones, massive, boost in help for that defense. But really, it's about the offense. Kelsey needs to be out there. Mahomes needs that kind of security blanket. I think Kelsey's, any prop you can find on Travis Kelsey, take the over. I like him for 2 touchdowns plus 330. But my top bet is just the Chiefs winning. I think the Jaguars kind of didn't look spectacular against a Colts team that, we talked about him last week. Just did not, defensively, doesn't have a lot there, especially in the defensive backfield. And Trevor Lawrence still finished under the total, which was one of my picks. Got a little lucky there, but I like Kansas City. I think they cover. I think they bounce back. Going 0-1, not a big deal in the NFL. Going 0-2, less than 10% of teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs over the last 20 years. So that's a long trend. You don't want to start 0-2. I can't see the Chiefs starting 0-2 either.
Yeah, and as you point out about Chris Jones, like I said, their left tackle is suspended. Center is injured. Their left guard is probably out. This is an optimal spot. Adam, as always, is on the lean here. Remember, the Kelsey news he told you. Keep abreast of that. That's your big deal. But like you said, Adam, betting Kelsey props, that will be the way to go here because Jacksonville could not defend tight ends last year. They don't have a personnel shift that made it different for this year. Go right ahead. You were saying something else.
That's exactly what I was about to say. They were one of the bottom 5 teams in almost every category when it comes to defending tight ends throughout the course of last season. I don't expect a whole lot different. And Kelsey himself rolled these guys in the playoffs last year. So I expect a big game from Kelsey if he's out there. I think he's going to be out there. He nearly played. It's going to be 10 days ago by the time they get suited back up. So I expect him out there on Sunday.
So the next game we'll talk about is Chargers-Titans. I was stunned that they didn't lean on Derrick Henry because they gave Tyjae Spears more snaps. Henry was playing well enough against New Orleans, and then they were letting Ryan Tannehill just throw as many picks as he could and just giving the game away. It was a very, very weird game. They force-fed targets to DeAndre Hopkins to a fault, ignored everybody else. Nick Westbrook-Akine saw more targets than Okonkwo and Burks combined. The Chargers, on the other hand, they were taking what the Dolphins gave them underneath on defense, including running the ball. So that was smart. They came up a little short. Either team could have won that game, but defensively, they just had their lunch handed to them by Miami. How are you handicapping Chargers-Titans this week, Adam?
Yeah, I think you put it very succinctly in a lot of ways. I think the Chargers kind of took what Miami gave them, and they allowed them to rush for over 200 yards in that game. That's not how the Chargers are probably going to win a lot of games. I mean, they scored a lot of points, but they, like you said, they came up short. But this is a passing team. Austin Eckler may or may not play, but they have a capable backup there, so it's not a massive deal. And this team wants to throw, and Tennessee is the perfect defense to throw against. They're a bottom 5, bottom 6 linebacking and defensive back crew back there. This is field day time for Herbert. He did not kind of release the hounds in week 1, but he's going to have a great opportunity to do it in week 2. And Ryan Tannehill, he's a guy I kind of like. The numbers have been there for him. He's become kind of a game manager, and now that's exploded in the wrong direction, imploded, I guess, for him. He looked terrible, obviously, in week 1. Derrick Henry needs 30 touches. They need to go back to that route. But this Chargers defense is good. Their front 4 is solid. Their back 4 is solid as well. I think that poses a lot of problems. Tennessee, if you're going to beat the Chargers, it's almost going to have to be in a shootout, and Tennessee just does not have the personnel for that. So -2.5, you're laying with the Chargers. I think they bounce back big here.
Yeah, it's very hard to argue with that. And you mentioned before, the Titans are what we call a pass funnel defense. You can't run on them. It's just no-brainer. And New Orleans was smart. They didn't waste their time. All right, they gave some late carries to Jamal Williams to try to kill a little clock. But otherwise, it was Derek Carr throwing for over 300 yards. And if Derek Carr is throwing for over 300 yards with that line and Trevor Penning, the left tackle, last year he gave him a pass on injuries. He's brutal. But now we have Justin Herbert, well protected. Like you said, they've got this full functioning passing game. It's going to be just on full display here. And Adam, I think that's another big winner you got there with the Chargers over the Titans. -3.5, correct? Or is that line
two and a half? Yeah, it was 3. It moved to 2.5. It's you kind of see it both spots. My guess is by kickoff it might be 3.5. So get it now at 2.5 before it goes up to even 3. That 2.5 number is just too tasty.
Oh, that's huge advice. So, yeah, get that bet in today. Wait till the show's over, but get that bet in as soon as it's there. Next game. So, every year, obviously, division matchup. There were 49ers and the Rams. They've always played each other really, really tough. Both coaches know what each other want to do inside and out. This year, I want to hear how you handicap this game, because the one thing I see that's different is the 49ers, unlike other years, have a significant talent advantage. But that said, how do you see this game? The line's big on this game. Tell us the line and tell us how this game's shaking out.
Yeah, it's actually gone down. It was 8.5. The Niners were favored by 8.5. Now it's 7.5. So people are kind of looking into this Rams team, liking what they see. They think and it's 05 Field, so you're laying over a touchdown on the road team if you back the Niners, which is something I will be doing for week 2. I think talent-wise, like you said, there's just no comparison. I don't understand. Now, I think the Cardinals are the worst team in football. There's just nothing there, especially when Kyler Murray's not there. Even if he is, that's the worst team in football, in my opinion. The Rams, not that far behind. Defensively, Geno Smith looked absolutely terrible against this defense. That's a lot of red flags for Seattle, but
Yep.
But enough about them. It taught me more about Seattle, LA's win, than it did teach me about the Rams. Still no Cooper Kupp out there. We saw this Niners defense, what they did to Kenny Pickett and his talented players around him. That skill set is better than what the Rams have without Kupp. And the difference is Stafford will not run for his life like Kenny Pickett tried to do. He's just going to stand there and just get sacked over and over and over
Yes.
again. I think they're in a lot of trouble. I think the Niners, the Niners look great, obviously, in week one. I think they're going to look just as good here. I think this is a 3-touchdown game, potentially, if the Niners show up. And I think they will in LA. So I think Niners roll here.
And Adam, I think that the 49ers will not look past the Rams because of they respect Sean McVay and the fact that the Rams won last week. I think that's going to mean something. It's not like they're going to see this talent depleted team. It's a division rival, and you're on it. I mean, this is one where Matthew Stafford's in a lot of trouble here. And last week I pointed out earlier in the show, Adam, Puka Nacua has this big game. Well, Sean McVay got him lined up on Bobby Wagner, the linebacker, like 6 times. Bobby can't run. He can defend the pass. I mean, the run. He can't run anymore. And it was just like easy pitch and catch. Well, if they throw at number 54 this week, that's Fred Warner. That's not Bobby Wagner. That would be a big problem. But no, you're on. Go ahead.
Yeah. And Seattle, I think it told us a lot about Seattle. Pete Carroll got out coached every which angle, which is not good. If that's happening, last year, this defensive backfield, was on pace to be the worst defense in the history of the NFL from a passing perspective. And, that kind of showed when Matt Stafford shows up with a struggling offensive line, no receivers that anybody knows of, and he goes wild against them. So red flags were there as they go to Detroit to play Jared Goff. But anyway, love San Francisco here.
Yeah, now we have 2 Monday night games, 2 weeks in a row, Adam. Week 2 and week 3, we'll have a pair of Monday night games. I love that. Little extra football to watch on standalones for the most part. But let's talk about the early game on Monday night first. The Saints against the Panthers. Saints, again, very smart game plan. They played Tennessee. You can't run, so they came in and they threw. Rashid Shaheed was the third receiver on about 56% of the snaps, but it was a lot of Michael Thomas and Olave and even Juwan Johnson. They got it done. The Panthers, rough game for the rookie quarterback, thrown to the middle of the field, didn't understand that safeties can actually jump your routes, made it a little tough for him. How do you handicap Saints Panthers?
Yeah, it's easy to not like either one of these teams going into this one, but I like Carolina getting 3 to 3.5 points. I got them at 3.5, depending on what sportsbook you check out. Those are the 2 numbers you're getting. I think that's just too many points for this defense. Last week they only allowed just over 200 total yards of offense. Unfortunately, their own offense did absolutely nothing good, but it was a good feet wet moment for coach Frank Reich, who's brand new there. Obviously, the quarterback, first pro game ever there. Miles Sanders getting involved. Adam Thielen. I don't know about the receivers necessarily.
Shark is back,
but yes, exactly. So yeah, that is a big deal actually. So I expect more from them. Are they going to score 30 points against the Saints? No, probably not. But can they score 20? Yes. Can they score 23? Maybe. And can they lose 24 to 23? Probably. Something like that. And Saints, we saw what they did. Derek Carr, lit up the Titans, but I think a lot of people are going to light up the Titans this year. Carolina, much stiffer competition on the road, in Carolina's first home game. I just think it's going to be closer than some people might think it is. So if you can get that hook, plus 3.5, that's a huge number. Even plus 3, I think you're all right.
Yeah, and you know what? Brian Burns, he's going to help get some pressure, and they had a good pressure package. They didn't have to use it much in week 1 because, well, there wasn't much passing going on with Atlanta. But if Derek Carr is dropping back the pass here, and like I said before, Trevor Penning was a mess, and their interior line is a mess, and they're going to try to attack that. And we know Derek Carr, he is prone to having these bad games when he's under pressure. I think that's another reason why Adam is always on this, but this is stacking up in the direction where the Panthers are probably going to cover this, and I think a lot of the public are going to say Saints are a lot better. Not so fast. Adam, any last words on that?
No, I think you hit it. I think the Saints, I expect some pretty serious regression from them. And they weren't great last year, but, they came into the season like $70 million over the cap. So they basically had to jettison anybody that they could just to field a team, essentially. And you get Michael Thomas back, and I think Olave's a superstar, but Kamara's not there. Can Williams be that guy in the backfield? I don't know. I'm not sold. Carr's going to chuck it more than he probably should. And you're right. He's going to make some mistakes. He didn't make many in week 1, but again, that was the Titans. I think the Panthers offer a much stiffer test here.
And then one more game. We have Browns Steelers on Monday night. So the Browns, Jim Schwartz, the new defensive coordinator, they added 3 legitimate pass rushers to go at Myles Garrett. But it was a lot of different looks. There were plays where they dropped Myles Garrett back into coverage. The offense did not know what to do. The Bengals were like flabbergasted. You don't blitz Joe Burrow. They blitzed the heck out of him. They played press man. You don't play press man. They did it. They were dominant. Now they caught the Bengals off guard, certainly. But this Browns talent is loaded. Horrible weather game, Adam. But as the game went on, Deshaun Watson looked more and more comfortable. The Steelers, they got blindsided. They were at home, and they had no answers for the 49ers. That offense that looked great in the preseason, I want to say their first down was like 5 minutes left in the first half. It was bad. Tell us how this game's going to shake out on Monday night, though.
Yeah, I'm yelling to the rafters. Anybody that will listen, this Browns team is legit. I like everything about them. I think their defense is awesome. It's Niners-esque, the way they're doing things here. Nick Chubb is as beastly as they come. Deshaun Watson obviously is the X factor. He remains the X factor. He didn't have to do a ton against the Bengals. You know, it was rainy. They were handing off the ball to Chubb. That was working out very well, and the defense did the rest. I expect kind of the same thing here. I think Kenny Pickett, we saw what happened against that Niners defense. This Browns defense is very similar in a lot of ways. That's not good if you're Kenny Pickett, especially now that you don't have your top target. Deontay Johnson is not going to be out there. I think they're going to need to run the ball. I actually like Najee Harris in props for this game, but I love Cleveland to win the game to cover. Now, obviously, there's some caveats. If you look at history, the Steelers have won 20 straight on Monday night at home. That's an outrageous number.
Wow.
They've won 19 straight over the Browns at home. That's absolutely ridiculous. These are NFL record type of numbers, but trends were made to be broken. This is a new season, and I think Cleveland is just too much here.
Yeah, and my preseason bet that I was like screaming to the rafters was bet the Browns to make the playoffs. It was plus money, and now Aaron Rodgers is done, but it didn't even matter. This team is going somewhere this year. I'm excited. Adam, tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Well, the socials at Bookies Adam on Twitter and Instagram at Bookies Adam. That's pretty easy. Bookies.com is obviously our main site, and bookies.com/picks. If you want to go straight to the meat, find the picks. They're all posted right there with where to get them and why we picked them.
Adam Thompson, every Friday you'll be with us. We appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Everybody else, we'll be on Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow, John Ryan. Sunday, don't miss the Start Sit live stream. We'll give you the why, not just the what. Everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.